On Tech News Today, Facebook's new ad platform tracks you without cookies. Plus, the creator of Lotus Notes launches another communications app, but you'll actually want to use this one. Sony's PlayStation TV is coming to a living room near you, and a new smartphone app performs a miracle, giving sight to the blind. All that and more coming up right now.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, September 23rd, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Personal Capital. With Personal Capital, you'll finally have all your financial life in one place and get a clear view of everything you own. Best of all, it's free. To sign up, go to personalcapital.com/TNT. And by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com. Get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code TNT when you check out. Tech News Today is a show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan, and good morning, Jason Howell.
Good morning,
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Petaluma, the technology media capital of the world.
The technology sun is shining on us today.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know what that was.
We also have cows and chickens, and also from the I guess you would call it the Petaluma of the East Coast, we have Joe Panettieri. Welcome to you, Joe Panettieri, our co-anchor today.
Yeah, the Petaluma of the East Coast. I'm not quite sure how to come back with a witty response on that one, but thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
What is the actual town you live in on Long Island?
Actually, it's Huntington, Long Island, which is pretty well known for those who visit New York City. A lot of people scoot out here. It's about an hour outside of Manhattan.
We have a Huntington, too, here in California, but it's called Huntington Beach. So
yes.
Just saying.
Well, we have a Huntington Beach, too, but I think we're the pretender on that one compared to you guys.
We don't have a Long Island City. Anyway,
we wish we didn't have a Long Island City.
Yeah, you can have it. All right, well, why don't we jump into the news? Facebook is planning to unveil a new advertising platform next week. It's called Atlas, and it's better for targeting and measuring ads, according to an exclusive in the Wall Street Journal. The platform will enable marketers to track Facebook users. Are you ready for this? Not only on Facebook, but also on other websites, on mobile apps, and even in the real world, all without cookies. Instead, it uses the user's Facebook account data as a replacement for cookie tracking. For example, if a person buys something in a brick-and-mortar store and gives an email address that's associated with a Facebook account in any way, that purchase can become part of the personal data that's used to customize advertising for that user online. Facebook will unveil Atlas next week at the Advertising Week conference in New York City. And, of course, Joe Panettieri, this is yet another step on the road, not only away from cookies, but towards something far more sort of invasive in tracking than cookies, whatever this is. And it has to be said also that although this is something that Facebook is going to announce, Google is supposedly working on something just like this. Where's the line going to be drawn, if anywhere, on personal tracking for the purpose of contextual advertising, number one? And number two, when are we going to get ads that are actually contextual?
You know, I would say the answer to your question, number one, where is the line going to be drawn? I would say, what line? You know, the line is gone. And what was question number two? When are the ads actually going to be?
Yeah, because I mean, they just.
I'm dying to know. You know, because as the co-founder of a startup that's in the media space, you know, obviously we're tiny compared to a Facebook, and we will remain tiny compared to a Facebook in terms of dollars and cents. But we would love to really master contextual ads and get it right. And so I'm watching this really closely. I'm curious to see if Facebook gets it right.
Yeah, well, you know, this is something that they actually bought from Microsoft. They bought a suite called the Atlas Advertiser Suite, and they tweaked it and customized it for Facebook. And, of course, Facebook and Microsoft are pretty close partners, common enemies and all that sort of thing. It provides essentially what they call demand-side platform. So for advertising buyers, they know what this is. It's essentially a bidder tool that enables a sort of flexible bidding based on how valuable of a customer you're targeting and also how how close that customer fits the profile that you're targeting as an advertiser. And now, in terms of the ad space, Facebook is really going after the ad market. Google in the second quarter of this year had revenues of $14.36 billion, and compare that to Facebook's second quarter ad revenue, which is just $2.68 billion. I say just, but I mean $2.68 billion is a lot of money, but they have a long way to go before they catch up. Google's is essentially 7 times higher than Facebook's. So this is really interesting. But to the point of the advertising itself, so far we've heard story after story about how will people accept an exchange of giving up their data in exchange for getting contextual advertising. And everybody's like, some people say, yes, yeah, I would be willing to do that. But when you look at the actual advertising that's served up, it's pretty lousy. And if you the thing that they really get right is when you buy something. Let's say you go onto Amazon.com and you buy a wallet. Well, then for the next 6 months, you're hounded by ads for wallets, even though you just bought one. And so it really doesn't work right now. And I keep we keep seeing all these advancements in the harvesting of data, but when are they going to be able to actually use it in a way that benefits users?
Yeah, on the one hand, I don't have an answer to that, but on the other hand, to your point, I think that users are willing to give up their privacy practically indefinitely. Now, in recent weeks on this show, we've had multiple people come on the air with us and talk about recent hacks and privacy issues. And over again, those experts, journalists from across the world, keep on saying, you know what? The average end user really doesn't think about privacy at all. And then they go up in arms for about a day or two when there's a hack or an issue. And then it settles down again when the next free candy pops up on their smartphone or on their tablet or on their PC. They chase the candy, they chase the sweet stuff, and don't really worry about privacy.
That's absolutely true, and I think people are, getting used to the fact that their privacy is gone, and so little by little, each passing year, we all kind of throw up our hands and say, well, whoever they are, have all our data. The government's got it. China's got it. Everybody's got our data. So why even fight it anymore? Because you sound like a broken record after a while, complaining about all these violations of privacy and all the tracking that's going on, even as it keeps getting ratcheted up. So I agree with you, Joe. I don't think there is really a line. I think that people are they're just going to get used to it. And of course, young people who are becoming adults now, coming out of high school, coming out of college, they've seen this for years, and they're just going to accept it as a fact of life that privacy doesn't exist.
Yeah. And, the other thing with privacy not existing, and the thing I'm noticing with Facebook is, 99% of my peers are still on it, but there is that 1% who have completely unplugged, and I mean completely unplugged from social networking, can't find out anything about them personally, who they're employed by, what their family relationships are. So I think there is always that 1% out there that's hypersensitive to privacy. And I think it goes even a step further with the whole mobile opportunity here. On the one hand, Facebook, when they first went public with their IPO, the big concern on Wall Street was, hey, where is going to be the mobile advertising revenue and also the contextual ads that really understand where you're located at a specific moment and the types of ads that are going to be served up. Curious to see if this new tool, this new platform from Facebook solves that riddle.
And I mentioned that young people are used to the idea of their privacy being violated. And Danny in the chat room said that high school kids are using Snapchat, and so that doesn't violate their privacy. It's true that high school kids use Snapchat, but it's not true that that's the only app they use. They use lots and lots of apps. And in an era where a flashlight app will harvest your personal data, I think it's safe to say that anybody with a smartphone who downloads apps, in plural, is getting their personal data harvested. And when you tell a lot of people about that, they kind of shrug and say, well, that's just how it is, no big deal. Well, in just a second, we're going to talk about a communications revolution, in my opinion. I'm really excited about a new app that's coming out. But first, I want to tell you about Personal Capital. Give yourself a raise. Keep more of your money by using Personal Capital. They do this in a couple of ways. First of all, if you want to get a handle on your finances, you have to understand your finances. But how can you understand your finances when all the data is spread out and scattered all over on different services? You've got investments over here, you've got bank accounts over there, you've got your 401k, you've got another 401k from your last job, you got stuff everywhere. So how can you get a handle on what's going on? You do that with Personal Capital. It brings together all of your money into one cohesive view so you can look at it all at once. How much is coming in? How much is going out? How much is being saved? What is the interest? What are the penalties? What are the fees? And speaking of fees, they will help you save money on fees because you're almost certainly paying way too much for your financial fees. Penalties, you know, all kinds of stuff. I get these all the time. This is one of the things that drives me nuts about banks. They're constantly nickel and diming you to death, and Personal Capital has helped me, and it can help you to save money on those kinds of penalties and fees. They have a app that works on your Android Wear watch. It's fantastic. When something important happens with your money, your wrist buzzes, you look at your wrist, and there's the information right there. It's a really fantastic service. So set up your free account. Go to personalcapital.com/TNT. And Personal Capital is free, and it's a smart way to grow your money. And we thank Personal Capital for their support of Tech News Today. Well, Joe Panettieri, Ray Ozzie is back, and he's starting another communication revolution. What's going on?
You know, I'm happy you started with the name rather than the app, and the name is Ray Ozzie. Before we get into the actual app he's delivering, I wanted to give some context for viewers who may be newer to the industry and listeners who may be newer to the industry.
You Snapchat users out there.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Ray is famous for being the father of Lotus Notes, which was one of IBM's biggest acquisitions back in the 1990s, you know, big groupware platform. Then he went on to become the chief software architect over at Microsoft, essentially succeeding Bill Gates in that role for quite some time. And a lot of people overlook this, Mike, but back in 2005, it was Ray Ozzie who penned the memo that basically was a wake-up call for Microsoft to get going in the cloud. And to his credit, that sparked a big move with Windows Azure and other cloud services. So now that you've got the context, what Ray Ozzie has done over his career, now he's back and he's developing this new app, and it's creating a lot of buzz. And to bring us some insight as to what this app is Harry McCracken, the technology editor over at Fast Company. Harry, are you with us?
Hey, folks. Good to be here.
Great to have you aboard. Thank you for rejoining us on the show again. We appreciate it. Hey, can you give us what is the early buzz on Ray Ozzie's his newest app and his newest company? What's he up to here?
Well, even though we call these things smartphones, a lot of people don't actually make all that many calls on their phones these days. They're using all kinds of apps for text-based communication. And the idea behind Talko is, what if phone calls didn't exist? What would they be like today? So it's much more collaborative. It's based around the idea of teams, and a team can be coworkers working on a specific project, or it might be members of your family. And you can place a call to a team, and that can either be sort of like an outbound conference call where you place the call and their phones all ring. But you can also do something where they get a notification, but it's not as distracting, and they can come and listen to something you're recording right away, or they can check in later and they can add their own recorded audio to it. And it syncs with hashtags and bookmarks, and you can also take your phone and take photos of things which sync up with the audio stream. It's sort of like a group chat, except all audio-based.
I've been using it all morning, Harry, and I am absolutely infatuated with this app. I think it's fantastic. And one of the cool things is that I've got it running here, if you can see that. One of the cool things is when I launched it this morning, there was only one. What it does is it harvests contacts out of your personal contacts, and then it finds those people in your contacts who are already users, and their faces pop up, and you just tap on their face, and you can start talking to them. And this morning, when I first launched it, the only person in there was Leo Laporte. And then now, since then, I've got about a dozen other people here. So it's a really cool app. That was my opinion. What was your opinion in terms of how appealing it is to use as both a professional and on a personal basis?
Well, it's really intriguing. I've seen a lot of collaborative type apps where I get a demo of them and I'm not particularly interested in trying them. And this one I am. I'm hoping that some of my coworkers at Fast Company are intrigued enough that we can experiment with that. One of the big challenges with collaborative apps of any type is it's not getting one person interested in it. You've got to get everybody within an organization committed to using it over the long run, or it doesn't take off.
Now, one of the things that I found really fascinating about it is the flexibility between the difference between something which is essentially a conference call and something that is essentially a group push-to-talk call. So, for example, let's say you have a team of 5 people. You sort of launch an app with that team, and then everybody's potentially connected, and you personally have a green button, And when that button is green, your voice can be heard when you talk. You don't need to touch anything. It's essentially a conference call. But then when you click the green button, it goes white. And now you can still hear everybody else who's got green buttons, and you can't hear anybody who's got white buttons. And anybody who talks, you see their name pops up as you hear the audio. And you can sort of go back and forth. Like it's flexible for everybody. So it can be pushed to talk for one person, but a live call for another person. It's fantastic. It's absolutely a fantastic app. Now, it's currently on iOS only, right? What other platforms do we expect to emerge on for this app?
Well, they're working on Android, and they have a very basic web version right now, but they're also planning to do a more full-blown web one, which will be how they get onto Windows PCs and Macs.
Is the web version right now available to consumers? Is this something people can use today?
It's basically for playback. So if you're on your iPhone and you want to share a call with somebody who doesn't have the app, you can still do that. They'll just see it in the browser, but they won't be able to participate yet.
Hey, Harry, curious to know, do you think this new company, is this going to be a one-app wonder? Or I think you spoke with Matt Pope over there, one of their co-founders. Did he give any clues that they're working on multiple apps?
He didn't mention anything else other than this. And this seems like a really rich idea. It's something like Lotus Notes that could grow over time. And there's stuff they haven't done yet. Like, for instance, right now, there's no video aspect to it. But he told me that they are definitely going to do video in some form, whether it's sharing short clips or something a little bit more like Skype or FaceTime at some point.
Harry,
right. And then
go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I'm curious to know also, it seems to me that this isn't just a corporate app. It sounds like from the interview you did and looking at the app as well, this could also be a family type app containing both live content, real-time voice, and or recorded messages from family members, et cetera. Do you see it that way as well?
Well, they definitely don't want to have like a clear line between personal and work. They see it as something that families can use, and their business model ties in that too. It's going to be free, and corporate users will be able to pay to keep their archived calls forever so they can become a knowledge base. But for personal use, you won't have to pay, and it's just that your calls will eventually disappear.
Now, I have a practical question for you. One of the benefits of this app is that it saves everything, and you can search for things with hashtags, and it has essentially the equivalent of bookmarking and so on. Is this going to load up people's phones? I know we have 128 gigabyte iPhones now, but is this going to gobble up a lot of space, and how would you get rid of some of this data?
It shouldn't, because it's all cloud-based. So all of those recorded calls are in the cloud, and your device will just grab them as needed.
And do you see a security problem there potentially?
You know, that's always an issue with anything stored in the cloud. And I think the other thing, which relates a little bit to that, is this really might change how people behave in phone calls, because right now, unless you've gone out of your way to record a call, the moment you're done with that, it disappears. And if you really use this within a company, all of your important calls will be saved and will be available to everybody else in the teams. And I think that has a lot of potential to be incredibly useful, but it might also have an effect on what people say in meetings, because they know that it's going to be around for the long haul, and it won't just be between the people in on that particular call.
That's right. It's essentially, if people use it as a replacement for phones, it will be as if all phone calls are recorded within a company and can be searched in addition.
That's
so
right.
This, of course, is going to be a lawyer's dream when it comes to, you know, cracking down and sort of getting a warrant to sort of get all the information from a company, because this will come along with the email and everything else. So that's there's a risk there that companies have to worry about. Harry McCracken is at fastcompany.com. He's at technologizer.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Harry McCracken. Thank you so much for joining us, Harry.
Thanks, Mike.
Sony plans to start selling its PlayStation TV set-top box in the U.S. and Europe starting next month. Karyne Levy is a senior West Coast tech editor for Business Insider and joins us now. Welcome to you, Karyne.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Now, can you tell us about PlayStation TV? What is it exactly?
So it's a little tiny box. They're marketing it as they're calling it a micro console, and it can fit in your hand, and it plugs into your TV with a HDMI cable. And basically the main selling point is that it is going to allow you to play PlayStation games. I think like a sub selling point is that it will also allow you to stream, like Netflix in the future and like some of PlayStation's like in-house streaming TV things. But for the most part, it's going to allow you to play video games without spending $600 on a regular full-blown PS4 console.
Hey, Karyne, Joe Panettieri here. I'm curious. I believe Sony has offered the PlayStation Vita TV product over in Asia for a year. Now, I've never seen the PlayStation Vita firsthand. I'm wondering, is this the same product rebranded or completely different? And does Sony have any learnings from the Asia market in terms of what they're trying to do worldwide now?
Yes. So this is basically the same device that was over in Japan it was in Japan. I think they released it last November. When it first came out, I think the main thing that people were struggling with was that it didn't have a very big launch library of games. So if the main problem with it, or the main selling point, is that it's supposed to play a bunch of games like PS Vita games, PlayStation 3 games, even PS1 games, and it didn't launch with a very big launch library, I think that is what Sony took away from their launch over there. And, that was the big news yesterday, was that it's launching not just next month, but with nearly 700 games. That was the big exciting selling point.
Now, this costs about $100 or $140 with a wireless controller. Why the heck would anybody spend the full price for a PlayStation if they can get this for so much less?
Well, I mean, right now it's only playing a select number of games. I'm not, I guess it's kind of an entry point into the market for maybe, families that have younger kids that don't want to spend $600 on, a huge console. This can kind of be another option for them to kind of get them into gaming, or kind of, it'll be released right before the Christmas season or the holiday shopping season. So I think that it's marketed toward people who might want to start playing video games, but don't necessarily want to drop almost, $600 or $700 on a system and games and controllers and stuff like that.
Hey, Karyne, any clues as to whether or not Sony will somehow integrate this with tablets and smartphones? The reason I ask is I've got an 8-year-old son who increasingly is using a tablet and or smartphone gaming rather than a full-blown console, but he still does dabble in the console area. So I'm wondering, as that intelligence moves from, something that is hardwired to or closely located to your TV, does Sony see the need to spread the intelligence out to the mobile devices?
Absolutely. I think, another main selling point that I forgot to mention was that this also lets you play PlayStation 4 games on a different TV. So you have your PlayStation 4 on one television in your house, and now you have this in another television in your house, and you can play, remotely. They call it remote play. They're also marketing PlayStation Now, which is their video game streaming site. And I think they've already started, dabbling in that on their tablets and phones, and even their TV lines. So I think that this is definitely going to, open that up for people to start playing their PlayStation games on their phones and tablets and stuff like that. I think that this is a great entrance into that market.
Yeah, it's a brilliant model because it's the perfect device for people who have PlayStations, and it's the perfect device for people who don't have PlayStations. It's great for both of them, as I understand it. Karyne Levy is at businessinsider.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at Karyne Levy. I'm going to spell that Karyne-Levy. Thank you so much for coming on Tech News Today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, Joe, you're going to tell us about a smartphone app that actually performs a miracle.
Yeah, and isn't this a nice story? Because, hey, listen, we're all impressed by whiz-bang applications, but too often, quite frankly, we're talking about a game application or some sort of social media application where people are hitting a bunch of likes. And what does it all mean at the end of the day? Now, here's an app story that really can change some lives. What we're talking about here is the KNFB Reader app, which, Mike, when you and I were preparing for this episode earlier today, I think you used the turn of phrase, it sort of gives sight to the blind, which I think you're right on there. Now, to give us some insight as to what this app actually does, we've got Christina Farr, a journalist from Reuters, on the line with us. Christina, is your line open?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about the KNFB Reader app? What exactly is this?
Absolutely. So just kind of a personal story. My aunt is fully blind and has been since the age of 7. And on Thursday night, I gave her a call, and she was yelling and screaming, and I couldn't make out anything that she was trying to say. But eventually she told me that she had just downloaded this app, and she was probably one of the first 20 or 30 people to download it. And it's for her iPhone, for iOS. And she was able to take pictures of anything, soup tin cans, the mail, anything, and it would read back the text on that object. Previously, she's had to spend more than $1,000 for a technology that, you know, hardly ever works because it's hard for her to even know how to tilt the camera correctly. And now with this application, she's told exactly what's in her field of view. She knows how to hold the phone so that she can get the optimal photo, and then it reads it back with far more accuracy than she's ever encountered. So she was saying, you know, that this is the greatest advancement for her since Braille, which is pretty amazing. And on further inspection, I discovered that this was a project that Ray Kurzweil from Google has been overseeing, and it's been a 4 decades long passion project for Ray. So it was really something, quite a story.
What was Kurzweil's role in this exactly? I mean, did he bring technology from Google into this, or is this something, because he started working on it before he was at Google, that was separate from Google?
This was more of a side project for him. We actually managed to jump on the phone that Friday, and he was telling me that he became interested in this type of technology, which involves the very latest in image processing since the 1970s. He said it was 1973, and he had a conversation with a blind person on the plane about how difficult it was to read back any sort of printed material, and just how it made this person feel whenever they had to ask someone else to read them a menu out loud. So Ray became committed to it in the 70s, and in 76 he invented the first reading machine. He ran into the offices of the National Federation of the Blind in DC and said, you know, here it is, voila. But it was the size of a washing machine and cost $50,000. So it's quite amazing that here we are now in 2014, and that technology is better than ever. It can fit in an iPhone app.
Hey, Christina, this is Joe Panettieri again. I got goosebumps as you're describing the firsthand experience. I think you mentioned that it was of your aunt there, and how wonderful it is to have a firsthand reaction to this life-changing technology. For others who are listening to this broadcast, this netcast, and/or watching it, can you give us some indications? Is this Apple iOS only right now? Is it coming to other platforms? Where can people learn more to track this technology?
Well, the app is expensive. It's $99. But, you know, we did talk about that, and Ray said he envisioned that the price would come down pretty quickly. He also said that within a couple months it should be available on Android. So if you have an Android device, then you'll be able to download it. The reason that they went first with the iPhone and iOS, even though Ray works at Google, is because the vast majority of blind people are iPhone users. I believe it's about 60 or 70%. So they just wanted to be able to get it out to the largest number of people as quickly as possible.
Christina, there was a Google Glass app that did something. It wasn't an app, actually. It was a research project that had successfully done some demonstrations, but it was a Google Glass glassware app that would look at things, and when you were in front of something, it would tell you what it was. It would recognize objects. So, for example, you could walk up and you could feel some sort of metal box, and you just push a button, and it would say, okay, that's a toaster oven, or that's a copy machine, or that's a bicycle, or whatever. And so you can imagine a future in which smartphone-based apps can, number one, read things to you as this one does. Number two, identify things, places, and possibly even people. And number three, there's other technology that can actually do a 3D map of the inside of a room. I think we're looking at a world in which people who are visually impaired can move through the world and essentially function as a sighted person in all these different areas. It's a really exciting area, and I think that it's great to see somebody like Kurzweil, who's involved in Google, has got a lot of backing and money and attention and fame, that he can bring this sort of thing to bear. How, and if I may ask about your aunt one more time, how is she feeling about technology and the future of technology, especially smartphone technology, as it relates to her visual impairment?
Well, she's over the moon and asked to be put in touch with Mr. Kurzweil so that she could tell him herself, because he's been a hero of hers since the 70s. And she remembers being a kid in school and using one of his first reading machines and vowing to herself that one day she'd be able to afford to have one at home that was more portable. It's amazing. I looked through Twitter while I was doing some research for the story, and I saw people were using terms like independence and empowerment. And it certainly doesn't give people back their sight entirely, but it really has meant that people can function much more independently. And I was seeing stories like a man in Scotland who was tweeting that he used the application to read out loud the referendum so that he could vote about Scottish independence. And a number of people tweeted that this was the first time they were able to read their son's school report. So just think about that. Like overnight, that's the kind of difference a technology like this can make.
Christina Farr is at Reuters.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at Chrissy Farr. Thank you so much, Christina Farr, for joining us on Tech News Today.
Thank you.
Well, in just a minute, we're going to do some follow-ups. But first, I want to tell you about Harry's, one of our new sponsors. I'm so excited about this sponsor because I've been a user ever since they started advertising on Twitch shows. That's the first I heard of it when Leo did an ad for this product and this company here. The company's less than a year old. And what we're looking at now, if you look into the video stream, is a brand new product called the Harry's Foaming Shave Gel. This is fantastic. If you get the basic kit, you'll get the sort of shaving cream in a tube. This is a gel that foams. Really, really great products. And the reason they're great, especially in comparison to what's been available for a long, long time, I seem to remember years ago that razors used to be a lot better and a lot more affordable. And in recent, the last 10 or 20 years, I don't know when it happened, but basically razor blades got super expensive. They're kind of like, it's kind of like buying a printer. You can get a printer really cheap, but then the ink is super expensive, ridiculously, clearly way too expensive. And the same goes for razor blades. Harry is here to solve that problem. Their blades are high quality. They have their own factory in Germany that makes these super high quality blades, and then they sell them to you outside of this sort of monopolistic world of razor blades so that they can give them to you at a reasonable price, a really good price, and they'll deliver it right to your door. So there are multiple benefits to this: quality, affordability, and convenience. They'll bring high-quality razors that are super affordable right to your door. And this is really great stuff, too. The stuff smells really good. The razor blades are really, really great, and you're going to love it. Just go to harrys.com. That's HARRYS.com. Use the promo code TNT. That'll get you $5 off your purchase. That's harrys.com, and use promo code TNT. And we thank Harry's for their support of Tech News Today. Well, we told you on recent episodes about Disney's patents for using drones to entertain people. In fact, Joe was our co-anchor on that episode. Now Cirque du Soleil is getting into the act. The company is releasing a video on YouTube showing 10 computer-controlled swarming drones as part of a performance. It's sort of I guess it's sort of a proof of concept performance. This is all done for video. But in the video, the drones are inside lampshades, which fly around in unison and which obscure the drones themselves. It just looks like lampshades. You can't see any quadricopters at all. And the performance piece is called Sparked, a live interaction between humans and quadricopters. It was produced in a partnership with ETH Zurich and Verity Studios, and a representative for ETH Zurich said that, in fact, this is the future of certain types of information, that this is just the beginning of a new world of swarming drone-based entertainment. Joe, are you excited about swarm-based entertainment?
I actually am. Does anyone know that URL? I certainly am. And I think what we're seeing here is Cirque du Soleil is showing us the vision, the imagery that Disney shared with us with just words. It was about a month ago that you and I spoke about the Disney patents and the way that their parades would become interactive with drones flying around you. Now that you're seeing the Cirque du Soleil developments here, it really captures that same type of message. And Mike, as a Disney fanatic myself, I can imagine years from now maybe going to the Disney World haunted house, and now props throughout the house are set loose, so to speak. So this is exciting stuff.
And just to be clear about what the technology is, you may have seen the videos on YouTube of other types of swarming drone projects, but essentially how this works is it works like this. There are essentially markers that that can interact with the sensors on the drones themselves, so they know where they are. They can orient themselves in space, especially indoors. Disney's talking about using this outdoors. They'll have their own technology for that. But essentially what they do is they can tell where the other drones are, and they can tell where barriers and obstacles are, and computers can place these drones very precisely in 3D space so they can do all kinds of amazing things. They can do patterns, they can do figure eights without bumping into each other. They can fly around and do incredible things. So you're going to see, of course, like all these technologies, they keep getting better and better and better as more compute power and more software is thrown at them. And we're facing a world where, you know, when you go to Cirque du Soleil, I think it's a matter of time, probably within a year or two. There are going to be drones as part of every Cirque du Soleil performance. You're going to see it at Disney soon enough. And it's just going to become, you know, of course, the military is going to love swarming drone robots. And, of course, when Skynet launches, they're going to use them as well. It's going to be the end of mankind. But until then, it's going to be very entertaining, I tell you.
Yeah, well, yeah, that seems to be the common theme with technology until the end of mankind. And
until the machines rise up and kill us all.
Yeah, yeah, it is quite entertaining. But yeah, you know, when I also look at that, I do think of Terminator 3 and the outcome there. So hopefully that's not in my lifetime.
Yeah, but in the meantime, I can't wait to see those first live shows with drones. It's going to be really cool. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Bryant Thompson in Elgan, Minnesota, who posted this picture on Google+. He said, quote, "Here's the messy desk I use to watch TNT every day during lunch." And there it is. There you are, Joe Panettieri, right there on the screen.
And Mike, how about I make you a deal? That Harry's website. How about I make an order from Harry's and we do a before and after with, you know, some people are saying lose the goatee, other people are saying keep it. So maybe I lose it using Harry's, and then I come back a few weeks later and I grow it back. But I'll let you know about the experience with the Harry's purchase.
That would be fantastic. But I would recommend that you essentially do a reverse goatee. Just shave the part where the goatee is now and have a beard everywhere else. That would be cool. You could start a new trend.
Well, yeah, you know, I've already done the reverse mohawk, so why not the reverse goatee?
There you go. Well, that's a great project. That is awesome. Let's do that. Well, how do you watch TNT? Just take a picture of your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and we'll use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT. You can use that to search and find the other ones as well. Well, that is the tech news today. Joe Panettieri, thank you so much for being our co-anchor today. It's always awesome when you're on the show.
You know, it's always awesome to be here. Thank you, Mike. And Jason, I know you're hovering back there somewhere, maybe with a drone. Thank you very much as well.
My job would be a little easier if I had a drone to help me. But yes, thank you.
Or maybe a goatee.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
The chat rooms are saying it's not a goatee, it's a Van Dyke, but you know.
Not because I choose, but because I can't.
Yeah.
That will never happen.
The chat room's splitting hairs about this facial hair. Well, you should subscribe to Tech News Today. Why? Because it's free, it's easy, it's fun, and it's really cool to get it on your phone automatically, and you can just listen every single day. You can get it on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, RSS. So many options. Choose your favorite at twit.tv/TNT. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV, and send us your thoughts and opinions to tnt@twit.tv. That's our email address, or you can leave voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. Don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.